Hi. Hi, it's Jackie from Cambridge Safety. Welcome to one of our short Take 5 minutes for Health and Safety videos. In this short video, we're just going to give you a quick overview of the current corporate manslaughter legislation in the UK. So corporate manslaughter, we had some new legislation in 2007, and this replaced the old common law version of corporate manslaughter that we'd had previously. Before 2007, we had lots of major accidents, unfortunately, in the UK where a number of people were killed. We had the Herald of Free Enterprise disaster with the P&O ferry. We had the Kegworth airline crash. We had the Clapham Junction rail disaster, all where there were significant weaknesses in the company's management systems for health and safety, but no organisation was found guilty of corporate manslaughter. And it wasn't because they hadn't done anything wrong, and it wasn't because there was any gaps. It was because our corporate manslaughter legislation had evolved over hundreds of years, and it just wasn't suitable to take action against companies and senior managers. So due to that, we had a big review, and a new piece of legislation called the Corporate Manslaughter and Corporate Homicide Act was launched. This is now a more traditional piece of statute law, and if you breach it, you are committing a crime, a criminal offence. It's corporate manslaughter in Northern Ireland, Wales and England, and corporate homicide in Scotland. It applies to a full range of companies and corporate bodies. There's no Crown immunity and exemptions, but it's only if the accident which has resulted in a fatality has actually occurred in the UK. So if you've got people that work abroad and unfortunately any of those are killed, that is still a major issue, but there couldn't be a prosecution under corporate manslaughter. So who does it apply to? The new version applies to a wider variety of different organisations. Previously, lots of these, the old corporate manslaughter wouldn't have applied to. So limited companies, PLCs, partnerships such as Cambridge Safety, trade unions, the police force, etc. So government bodies are not exempt. So it filled that gap because previously lots of different organisations weren't covered. So what does it cover? So you're an employer. You're a limited company, you're a PLC. Do you supply a service? Do you do construction work? Do you maintain equipment or machinery or buildings? Do you use plant or machinery or vehicles? Do you engage in any form of commercial activity? Do you supply goods? And my particular favourite is, do you use any other thing? So if you do any of those and you are an organisation, then corporate manslaughter legislation applies to you. This is a mainstream piece of criminal law, by the way. It's not a health and safety piece of law. So it's enforced by the police, and prosecutions are taken by the Crown Prosecution Service. It may well be they do it in conjunction with the Health and Safety Executive or the local authority where relevant, but it's the police that investigate corporate manslaughter, and it's the Crown Prosecution Service who would decide if there was a case to answer. The offence then. This, again, took away all the common law ambiguous that we had before. It's a management failure by the corporation is the cause or one of the causes of a person's death. And that failure is conduct falling far below what could be reasonably expected of the corporation in the circumstances. And you might think that's a long-winded, but that is a lot more simple than the previous corporate manslaughter legislation. Is there a management failure, not just failure by one employee, not one team leader, but at the highest level of the organisation? Is that the cause or one of the causes of a person's death? That could be an employee, a member of the public, a contractor, anybody. And the conduct of the company has fallen far below what we'd reasonably expect. And the starting point would be if the company hasn't adhered to the Health and Safety at Work Act, if they haven't adhered to the management regs, if they haven't adhered to any of the other relevant regulations, but also if they haven't followed approved codes of practice, guidance notes, but equally, if a company has a policy that says they do this and then they don't do it, and that leads to a fatality, your own policies, procedures, and risk assessments can be evidence that your conduct has fallen far below what we would reasonably expect in the circumstances. Investigators then will be looking for, If in the past you've had warnings that you haven't done anything about, if you've put profit before safety, if you haven't assessed risks correctly, if you don't provide information and good communication, there's no evidence of good health and safety leadership, things are wrong and they're never actually enforced in the company, and we don't monitor, review, learn the lessons. These are the things that could provide evidence to the regulators, the police, in a case of corporate manslaughter. In real life, it will usually be a joint investigation by the police and the health and safety executive. And you might have one court case, but the health and safety executive will take action under breaches of health and safety law. And in the same courtroom, you would have the Crown Prosecution Service pursuing a corporate manslaughter prosecution. So corporate manslaughter, it's triable on indictment only, which means it will always go to the Crown Court or above. It's an unlimited fine and it's against the company, not an individual. It's against the company. They could also be served a remedial order, which tells them to put things right. One would hope they've already done that. Equally, there's a publicity order, and this is the sting in the tail. The court can order the company to advertise that they have been found guilty of corporate manslaughter. They might need to advertise in the national press, put it on their website, include it in tender documents, write to their customers and let them know. You've got to be a really good company to turn that around, and if you don't comply with a publicity order, that is contempt of court, and company directors could then be taken to court and sent to prison. So failing to comply will lead to additional fines on conviction. A quick potted tour about our current corporate manslaughter legislation in the UK. This is Jackie Cambridge. Thank you very much for watching. This is Jackie Cambridge from Cambridge Safety, www.cambridgesafety.co.uk. Thanks very much.